Welcome back then folks to another tuned setup in GT7, and I realised it's been quite a while since I did just a circuit build. Not a special project, not a cash cow, not a speed build, just a good old all-round, certain point level event kind of tune. And I recently found that I enjoy this one quite a lot because it's a wild engine swap for the Group 4 Racing Veyron, a vehicle which initially I thought was a cool idea but didn't necessarily have much use for. I use this one for 700 point events for like weekly seasonals or just events in general which don't require tyre wear or fuel use because it's the motor swapped Veyron. It's got the, LS7 engine I think it is. So you're basically running what I would call like a Veyron Club Sport build. So close to standard Veyron power, just under 1,000, but it's a good 300 to 350 kilos lighter than a stock Veyron. So it handles very well by Veyron standards, being a race car. Anyway, I've done a couple of upgrades, which there's no point in really jumping into the upgrade shop because you can see them anyway, but I've gone for racing heavy wet tyres, which obviously is not conducive to handling, usually. But I've done that for two reasons. Of course, the main one, it drastically reduces the point level to allow you to have less weight in some cases, more power in some cases. In this case, more so the power than the weight. But also, like I said, I use it in events where the tyre wear doesn't matter. So if the tyres aren't degrading, then this is more than good enough through corners, in my opinion, already. And it's way better than a standard Veyron, that's for sure. As far as the suspension goes, I've got 60 and 65 for the ride height, 5 on anti-roll, 25 and 35 for the dampers, 3.45 for the frequency on the springs. Big difference in camber, front and rear, 3 on the front, 1.5 on the back. Then for tow, we've towed in 0.10 on the rear. You don't necessarily even need that much tow on the back, to be honest, but give it a try. And crucially, tow in on the front as well, which helps with the turn in, especially with that four-wheel drive. In particular, thankfully, because you cannot adjust the torque split on this one, which is kind of a shame, but it is a 30/70, so that's not too bad. It's not too heavy at least. And I've gone for, as you can see, triple 10 on the front, triple 30 on the rear. I love how this thing handles personally, even with the wet tyres, so definitely give it a try before passing judgment on it. As far as the transmission, that is fully customised. You could, I guess, go for the manual version as well. I can't recall if you can fit that on this car. I'm thinking actually I don't think you could fit that one, but correct me in the comments if that's wrong, because sometimes the manual box does allow you, again, a lower point level, but I don't think it was an option here. I've gone for 330 on the auto setting because, yeah, you've got huge power, but it's not so much like a Route X kind of build, and those give you more than enough gears for most open tracks. You could change it if you want to, though. Of course, we've got the ballast and the power restrictor fitted as well. We've got 100% on the power restrictor, just a little bit of ballast, only 15 kilos. I've dumped that all the way to the front just to bring the point level down a little bit. 93% on the ECU restrictor. Another thing which drastically helps your point level is to have the front downforce as low as it can go and the rear as high as it can go. That's not like a glitch, it's been that case pretty much all the time, as far as I can remember in GT7. Often it ruins the handling. For this one, because you've got four-wheel drive, that helps out a lot anyway. And then I've got the steering angle adapter, just to improve that turn-in just a little bit. Any little helps, really, on a Veyron. So you want to see what it can do in action. And this is the event where I used this and found out, going from concept to how much I actually enjoyed it, well, you'll see it in practice. It was one of this week's seasonals on Dragon Trail. I think it was the Turbo Sports event, I believe it was, for, of course, turbo-aspirated vehicles. I think the point level was 700 on the limit. So if you've already done the event, then sure, you can pick whatever you want. But I love the idea of this because having the motor swap allows it to be in events where it shouldn't really necessarily always be there. It's still called a Group 4 car, but it kind of doesn't really perform or act like one anymore. Of course, there are plenty of vehicles which could beat it through corners, but for tracks where you can use that sheer power, it's nice to have the straight line ability of a Veyron, but like I said earlier on, with way better brakes, way better cornering, and far better turn-in than a Veyron would usually have. So it's kind of like a best of both worlds, or as I called it, the Veyron Club Sport. It doesn't quite feel like a race car anymore, doesn't quite feel like a road car, it feels like something in between, like somebody took a Veyron and just turned it into a track day special, which is also how it looks as well. So if you've got a Veyron Group 4 lying around, you don't do much with it. I personally hate how much less useful the Group 4 Veyron is in this game compared to GT Sport, because in Sport you can make it so much lighter to a ridiculous degree. Now you just can't do that anymore, which is a shame, but even so, I love this thing at the 700 point level. Give it a try if you've got one lying around that you're doing nothing with, and of course for events with tyre wear or fuel use it's not so good. For example, I initially built this for cash cow events at Le Mans. It was okay on that event, but it uses a bit too much fuel for my liking. Obviously in these events though, that doesn't matter. So give it a try, check out my other builds, special projects, cash cows, speed builds, everything else of course here on the channel. And until next time, I'll see you then. But for now, thanks for watching.